Welcome back. In just under 3 years' time, the continent of Africa will be staging football's World Cup for the very first time. The hosts, South Africa, are making all the right noises about the event, yet problems with crime, transport and the potential legacy of the construction have been overshadowing the build-up. So ahead of Friday's qualifying draw, Sportsworld took a look at South Africa's preparations.
The continent is the theatre, South Africa is the stage.
Yeah!
We're on the road to the 2010 World Cup, and it's party time.
You go to this corner, that corner, you go to the 9 provinces, they'll all tell you about 2010.
I don't know if I will afford one ticket, but I'm just looking forward to it.
It's the same like in Germany. You also need a little bit of luck.
Then you see white man like you. I see money, I see you to rob you.
Now the initial party's over, it's time to knuckle down to the serious business of organising the largest sporting event on the planet. 5 new stadiums will be built. 5 old stadiums will be renovated to meet FIFA regulations. On the surface, things are looking pretty rosy for the hosts, but there have been problems. Cape Town, the seat of government and a jewel in the tourism crown. Here, local fightback has been the most vocal. Trevor Stacey is with the Greenpoint Coalition that was set up to fight against the proposed cost, the environmental impact and the location of the new stadium, which will be miles away from the homes of the true fans.
The stadium is expected to cost somewhere between $350 and $400 million. That money could be far better spent upgrading all the amateur clubs in Cape Town. I think there are about 25, getting those facilities in a reasonable state because they're not in a good state now, creating a trust fund for the development of soccer in Cape Town.
If the stadiums are used after the World Cup, they could provide a lasting legacy. But will their future be empty, much like those in Japan and Korea after 2002?
This thing is being built for one game, which is one of the semi-finals. Soccer doesn't have a huge support base here in Cape Town. I believe that even some of the bigger league games only attract about 5,000 people.
First things first though, and the World Cup needs to be a success. Over 400,000 fans and tourists are expected to visit. But with too few hotels in the country, homestays like this one will be busy. Situated in the heart of Soweto, only a few miles from the main stadium, Mama Lolo is already an institution in her own right. And back in 2001, when parts of Soweto were improved, she famously opened the first bed and breakfast in the township on the outskirts of Johannesburg.
Most of the B&Bs in Soweto are expecting a lot of people to come and stay in the B&Bs. And then mine, I already have bookings from some people who stayed here 2 years back.
FIFA stipulate that fans should spend no more than 40 minutes moving between their place of residence and the stadium. This could be a huge problem for the rickety old, or in some cases, non-existent transport infrastructure. Enter the GOW train. Not purpose-built for the World Cup, but critically important in winning the bid and critical for providing transportation during it.
In terms of the World Cup, the linkage between the airport and Sandton and Rosebank, where the bulk of the people will stay in the hotels there, it is important to have a linkage that would not be affected by traffic or delays. So the GO train would just form the backbone of the system.
With new stadiums being built, massive transport and infrastructure projects, even new hotels are going up. The World Cup is catalysing the construction industry, and there is hope that these economic benefits will filter down into the poorer communities, such as townships like Khayelitsha, a sprawling slum, home to over 1 million. A throwback to the apartheid era, where trapped in this cycle of poverty and desperation, many like Khayelitsha turn to crime.
When I think 2010, about 2010, I think what to pass those tourists, to rob those tourists, you know, because I'm living in Khayelitsha. I know Khayelitsha is under Cape Town. Cape Town is going to host World Cup. I know I'm going to survive with rob other people, you know.
Rated as the 3rd most dangerous country in the world, the organising committee realised that security will be of paramount importance. And they hope that their experience successfully hosting previous world events will calm fears. And football, not crime, will become the headline news during the event.
We had the Rugby World Cup, the Cricket World Cup, the World Summit on Sustainable Development, the African Cup of Nations. All of those events had a security plan. and we managed to safeguard every single one coming to the event.
The World Cup is not just about the politics and economics of a country's ability to host it. It's also about football and the spirit of the beautiful game. The philosopher and one-time Algerian goalkeeper Camus once said that all he knew about morality and obligation he owed to football. And there are few places where this is as clear as in the townships. Mrs. Maisa is one of the few female coaches in South Africa, and with a 14-year-old son playing in a local match, she understands why football is so important for children living in deprived areas.
There's a lot of things happening here in South Africa, more especially our kids. You know, they're attracted in, a lot of funny things like the drugs, the liquor, all those things. So if they play soccer, I think it is a place where we're keeping them busy.
And that is something that the new coach of the national side, Bafana, knows too well. Carlos Pereira may have taken 4 different teams to the World Cup and even won the event in 1994 as the coach of Brazil, but he's well aware that in a developing country, football has the power to change lives.
This is the dream of any boy to represent Bafana to be, and also to find a way of rising in life. It's on the financial side, on the popularity, on the famous side. It's a very good, how can I say, short way to build your life. And also something which they like, they love it.
But for many, the closest they'll ever come to the national side will be watching their team live. But many may not even be able to do that. Only 1 million of the 3 million tickets will be made available to South Africans. And for the boy in the township, the price will most certainly be too much.
Football in South Africa and on the African continent in general is the sport of the poor and the unemployed. They are passionate about the sport. And therefore, we have an obligation to ensure that we provide a ticket that's affordable to the real soccer fan in our country and on the continent.
But as FIFA always make very clear, this is not a South African World Cup, this is a FIFA World Cup being held in South Africa. And football is big business. FIFA stand to make $4 billion from the event, partly from ticket sales. So will they reduce the price so the fans can be at the game?
FIFA is aware that the demographic situation in South Africa is completely different than in Germany. And that's the important factor. But also for South Africa, if you have 3 million tickets and 30 million who wants to go a football match or to the 64 matches, then we have a problem. And this is not solvable, no matter where you are.
But for a poor developing country like South Africa, what could be the lasting legacy of holding the World Cup?
The ability 2010 has to grow the GDP, for example, from 4.8% now to, let's say, about 6.5% in two or 3 years' time. That's a positive spin-off.
This World Cup is about how do we transform this country in line with the stated objective of building a sustainable economy into the future. And we think that the World Cup can contribute.
Football runs like blood in the veins of black South Africa, and in no one least, the Nelson Mandela. One day after he was freed from prison, he chose to go to the football stadium in Soweto, and in front of 100,000 people, speak of a new South Africa. On the 11th of July 2010, the World Cup final will be held in the same stadium. And when the last ball has been kicked, perhaps football can bring further reconciliation to the Rainbow Nation.
Well, don't forget to check out our website, aljazeera.net/English, where you can find all the latest sports news, watch any of our Sportsworld stories again, and let us know what you think of the show. Well, that's it for this edition of Sportsworld. I'm Joanna Gajarowska. You're watching Al Jazeera.